The older that I get, I'm starting to realize how important it is to not make your work your main thing. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
necessary, but to going back to your question about asking people about their hobbies, like well, family stuff. Well, no, like if you're a father or you're a husband, like that's that. But what are you for you? But it's definitely necessary because we can get lost and lose ourselves pretty quickly. Um, because there's so many distractions in this life, right? Whether it's work, I look at work as a distraction, to be honest with you.
And it could be like an old school mentality. I don't know what it is, but they're like, no, you got to work so much and do this, and that's got to be your life. As I get older, it's something I think about more. Like I don't want to miss my kids' sporting events or like their school events.
That's what the kids are going to remember. That's what we are going to remember. We're not going to remember how much we made that, in 2024.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reliable HVACR podcast on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. If you guys are listening to this on audio on Spotify or Apple or any of those other platforms, make sure you leave a review. I appreciate all the 5-star reviews, and that really helps us out. Make sure you follow the show too. And we're just, having good conversations with good people. If you are interested in being on the show, I take on any guest. If you want to come on and tell your story, we can talk about your journey through where you got to where you're at now. And I think some people listening can relate to certain stories. So it helps. Just come on, tell your story. Any sponsors that want to come on and help out with the show, there's a few spots left. Email me. All my info is in the description. If you guys want to be a sponsor of the show, any companies that are listening, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you to all the sponsors that do make this podcast possible, like Jobber, our CRM that we use specifically for our business. A lot of automation, a lot of AI features coming. I can't wait to use that next year and kind of really implement the marketing and everything. So if you guys want a free trial and discount, make sure you check the link in the description or go to getjobber.com/reliable HVACR. Also want to thank VETO Pro Pack for letting me help them design some bags and listening to feedback and getting to work with them. They've been a great supporter and sponsor of the show. Make sure you go check out the best bags money can buy at vetopropack.com. You'll also hear from Local HQ Marketing, DIVERSITECH, and GREE. Thank you again for the sponsors of the show. And a quick plug, make sure you go to reliablehvacr.net if you guys want any merch. We got the In Trades We Trust merch that just dropped. The old stuff that I've always had. If you guys like any of the logos, HVAC Nights is up there too, so make sure you go check that out. Also, we have a Discord, speaking of HVAC Nights, and I'll leave that link down below so you guys can join. We've had a lot of cool conversations, tool talk, tips and tricks. A lot of questions get asked there. So go check out our Discord. It's completely free. You can join and chat with any of us in the group. And make sure you check out HVAC Nights live every Thursday night with Jake, Cooling with Kraus, and Curtis, the HVAC guy. We appreciate all the support on that show as well. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and a happy new year to you guys. I appreciate all the amazing support throughout the past 2 years that we've been trying out this whole podcast journey. And we got a very good episode tonight. This is the season finale, the last episode of the year, however you want to look at it. And next year we're going to kick things off at the podcast pavilion, so we'll be live in Orlando at the 2025 AHR Expo. Do not forget that. If you can check us out at the show, I'd greatly appreciate it. We're going to have HVAC Nights on Monday, and then we're going to have the Reliable Podcast on Wednesday. Now, on the Reliable Podcast, we're going to have a huge announcement, and I'm pretty excited and stoked to share with you guys what we're going to be up to in 2025. So go check that out, and if you can't catch it there, obviously not everybody goes to it, the episode will air on YouTube that week, and obviously, as per usual, the following week on all audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. So appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for that announcement. And now, as far as today's episode, this guy needs no introduction. If you are watching my content, you probably are watching his content. So without further ado, let's do some work. Are you guys well, what kind of weather do you guys got over there? Because like over here it's so in between cool and hot.
It has been up and down, which is a little weird, but woke up and it was actually like in the mid 60s today. So temperature wise, it was fine. This, and obviously with the holiday season here as well, it's crazy.
Is that what you do during this time? Like, do you have stuff lined up to kind of get you through the winter and all that?
Yeah, kind of. In Tennessee, obviously summertime's the busiest. Dead of
Yeah.
winter, which is typically going to be around, end of January into February, and then maybe even early March. So the shoulder season, we're in it right now. So yeah, I usually try to push off any type of projects that are not absolutely necessary, and then also just the media side of things. I started up another company doing that, so I've been pretty busy with that as well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that in a bit. But I had recently seen your Mexico project. So what part of that what part of Mexico did you go to?
So if I can pronounce it well enough, Piedras Negras. So it's like right over the border of what is it? Uh, Something Pass, Eagle Pass, Texas.
Oh,
So it's a border.
y'all went through Texas.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right, because you went with
yeah,
Ben, right?
yep. So we picked up Ben in Austin, and so it's a border town. It's really just like literally across the border. And then the project itself, we stayed at the school, but the where we did the work was at their camp, and their camp was like an hour away, so it was a little bit farther in. So a buddy of mine here, local, his brother is the director of that facility. So we were just chopping it up one day earlier this year, having coffee, and he was talking about their camp, where it's a youth camp, and the summer months the kids are there, they're sleeping there, doing their programs, and all of the buildings, none of them have any air conditioning. I couldn't believe when he told me that, because
Yeah.
obviously it gets super hot there. So I just said, kind of in passing, was like, hey, let's do something about it. Let's, I've got resources, let's see if we can make it happen. And that's, long story short, that's basically how it worked.
Yeah, I saw y'all were doing like some mini splits and getting some air conditioning, like you said, in a place that doesn't normally, see that kind of stuff. Because I mean, Mexico, I mean, it's hot. I'm in Texas on the border as well, so like we don't do it anymore, but we used to cross over. We used to walk over and hang out in certain areas of Mexico and stuff. And I mean, it used to be like fun going over there. I'm sure the culture, everything that you saw over there was pretty neat. And I saw you guys getting a lot of like, I saw that you got paid in tamales and different things, and you got some authentic Mexican food.
Yes, and that was probably one of my favorite parts, because I love Mexican food. We eat as much as we can here locally. Try to find all the more authentic spots here. So going there was fantastic. I was just, lack of better words, eating it up. Just enjoying that. Not just that, but the culture, like you felt like you were part of the family there. And that was one thing I didn't really expect when I was there. Like they really made you feel like you were just part of the family. So anyway, it was just a cool experience from that perspective.
Okay, like I know you like Mexican food, and I know Ben's big on tacos and stuff too. How hard is it to find that up there? Because you're like in that Tennessee area, no?
Yeah, so I'm in Tennessee, but I mean, we have a lot. We have a lot of options here. And with that same friend that I've been talking about, he's really turned me on to all the sweet spots. So we don't go to like actual restaurants. It's usually a little hole in the walls or a food truck or something along those lines. And Yeah. So we got some good food here for sure.
Dude, it's crazy because like I was just thinking about that. I had seen something on my Facebook, and it's like, the hidden gems around here because we have like an old downtown area, and then there's one by my son's school. I'm like, man, these things have been, they're like little hole in the wall places. And I'm like, these things have been here since I was a kid. I'm surprised that they're still around, but it's just, the good, authentic, homemade food keeps them in business, I guess, those are the
Absolutely.
best places.
They are. Yeah. I mean, there was one spot in Mexico where all they did was serve breakfast tacos, and they had these signs on the walls, and they would cover them with magnets whenever they were out of that specific meat.
Mm.
And it was just a little drive through, and it didn't seem like you were at a restaurant at all, but it was the best, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's a thing here. We've had breakfast tacos for dinner and stuff like that. Like it's just, if the food is good, it's good.
That's it. Absolutely.
And I saw the video where you mentioned that that was kind of a goal of yours at some point to do, some things to help others out, the charity type of stuff. So is there
Hmm.
more projects that you got lined up or thinking about doing?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, that Mexico project was just phase one. So we're going to be probably doing one, more than likely two more phases, because there's quite a few buildings on that property. So at least that's the goal. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm going to be going for. And then outside of that, we had the the hurricane hit like North Carolina really bad. So I
Yeah.
was wanting to actually go out there here, hopefully the beginning of 2025. So we don't wait too long, but I don't really know. I don't have any resources out there yet to know like when my services can come into play. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But Trade Grind is a brand that obviously that the Mexico project was Trade Grind. That was our first project. So that's part of what Trade Grind is all about, is, giving back to the community in any which way we can. So right now it's doing, project work like that. We're also going to be getting into, hopefully, tapping into some of the schools, like the tech schools, and maybe, creating some grants to where we can pay for people's tuition, or just, maybe setting them up with tool, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever we can do. That's the kind of, um, the main part of what Trade Grind is about. But yeah, it's really all about just tapping into the community and giving back any which way we possibly can. So, and we're just getting started.
Did you make Ben work and earn his keep?
Oh yeah, for sure. Ben, I mean, that's one thing you got to know about Ben. He cannot go somewhere without working. If he's at your house, I mean, he's going to be doing stuff. I mean, he came to my house for my 40th celebration that I had, and he's in the shop wiring up switches for the lights. I mean, that's just who he is. He's all about getting stuff done and helping people out. So, yeah, he definitely put his work in for sure.
Yeah, man, he came down to the it was something for Insco, and he wanted me to go by. It was a like a counter day type of deal. And then he had to catch a flight like immediately after. And I was like, "Oh, I got to get back to work, this and that." He's like, "If I had an extra hour or two, I would go up there in the attic with you cuz I had like a drop ceiling." I was like, "Oh, I got to do redo duct and all this other stuff." And he's like, "I would love to help you, but I got to catch my flight." So he's like, "If not, I would have been up there with you." This podcast is presented by Local. Local works tirelessly to help HVAC contractors rank higher on Google. They use an attack methodology to make sure that contractors dominate their local service areas and increase their market share and generate higher revenue. Reach out to Local at localhq.com/reliable. Mention me or the Reliable HVACR podcast, and you'll get 2 months of SEO for free. I don't know who the OGs of YouTube are, but I know I was watching you, Tito, Chris Stevens, all of you guys during that whole COVID thing. Is what year did you start your channel?
Yeah, I think it was the end of 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Like right before everything hit. I
Yeah,
think all of
like
you,
six
or not all of
months.
you, but like you and Tito started around that time.
Yeah, I would say probably about 6 months or so before COVID actually hit.
And was there a reason or any reasons that you kind of started that? Like, what was the, you know, thought process behind that?
it was something that actually just fell in my lap. The reason I started is because I wanted to learn more about videography. It was just a passion that I started to realize. And, I originally were doing kids' birthday parties and helping out on weddings and just anything that I could to learn the craft. And then I realized, well, I do HVAC every day. Why not just start filming what I do? I mean, I'm a one-man operation. So, I mean, I guess it's interesting. So I just started doing it. I had no idea that there was even already a community out there. There were people already doing it. So it was a surprise to me, to be honest. And yeah, just kind of went from there.
So that's what I was wondering, like if you had any prior interest, hobby, whatever you want to call it, into videography, but you haven't done any like schooling for that or anything, right?
No, no. My dad was a photographer, but not professionally, but just like
Okay.
as being in the family. So I kind of grew up with a parent having a camera and that creative kind of eye, if you will. So that's when I started getting into it. Was first I dabbled in photography, and this was back in 2019. So I started doing photography first, and I still do photography, but I quickly realized that videos was just something I was way more excited about. So that's when I, jumped into doing that. But to answer your question, no, there was no, prior training or anything like that. I do what I do like anything else, man. I spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos, asking people questions. I mean, just like I did
Yeah.
in the HVAC industry years ago, if you're hungry for something and you really want it, you'll find ways to make it happen and you'll learn the stuff, right? Because, just like anything else.
It's crazy because that's a hobby turned into, what it is for you now, having that channel like that grew into what it is. And like you said, with anything, if you really want it, you can learn it, and get into it. I never thought about it, but like my dad was that kind of dad too. Again, not professional or anything, but I remember him with that old school video, that huge one that you put like on your shoulder, the video camera. And he like videotaped us all the time, and we got so like annoyed with him. We're like, what are you doing, dad? Like you're videotaping everything. But then he has all this, because like all of us grew up. I have two younger brothers. We all grew up. We all moved. We all went on to do other things. And he's there at his house. He has all these videotapes, and he watches them, or he used to, over and over, because he has all these memories, all these things in
Yeah.
video form that'll last. Because he has everything. And I think my brother helped him convert them to DVDs and stuff like that a while back. So he has all that, all my sports games, everything. He was a dad there with the video camera all the time.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so that's one thing that I do with my kids. I have 4 kids. All the oldest is 12. So what I did when they were born, I created an email for them and I started emailing them pictures or short little videos that I would create like
Okay.
maybe once or twice a year. And then that way, by the time they're 18, I'll give them the password to it. And then they'll have like a whole log of really cool like
Dude.
pictures and footage or just messages. Like on their birthday, I'll email them and tell them basically what dad's thinking about them at that time. So anyway, those memories, dude, are just phenomenal. I mean, it's too easy now, right? Everyone has a camcorder, lack of better words, in their pocket now. So it's about doing something with it now instead of not having a way to capture those moments. It's now like, what do you do with it, and not just you know it sit on your phone forever. So anyway, I think that's cool.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, what are you gonna like? It's so easy now. That's why if I ever get the question like, should I start posting? Like, yeah, like it's you have the best camera in your pocket. Just take a photograph or a video, whatever you want to do, whatever your style is, and upload it, because you never know what can happen. I've seen plenty of guys over the past couple of years blow up, and they were like always afraid to post. It's and it's always the hardest part, is that first post, and then you get it up, and then you can go from there. But yeah, like why not? Look at you, and like I said, other guys that have done it and made something out of it. It's really cool that you had that interest before. Uh, so you had like Well, what are you shooting on right now? Like right now on the webcam.
Right now I'm using my actual camera. So it's a Canon R6, the Mark II version. It's got an actual, removable lens, and you can do all that fancy stuff with it. So, but the funny thing is I started out using an actual, like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera in the field. And then I quickly realized that it was so cumbersome, right? You're out there in the elements, it would overheat, just too many problems. So, whenever I switched to the iPhone 13 Pro, I started using my phone for everything. And still to this day, I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max now. And that's what all my videos are shot on that. The ones that are in the field. Now,
Yeah.
any shot where you see me here in in my shop, I'll use my dedicated camera for that, just to get a good establishing shot. But
Nice and
yeah,
crisp shot. Yeah, I had noticed and also not noticed because, I had watched your videos. A lot of times I like to see, obviously the HVAC stuff, but also how you film things. I think is a cool thing to see coming from somebody that was doing that sort of videography stuff before, and then like you dove into it, and then you did HVAC content. Um, so I didn't notice a big difference because the quality was still there, but like I think I had seen like a quick shadow or something, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's using his phone. So it still looked good, but like that goes to show you, like I said, you got a phone, you can do your content on that too.
no, for sure, man. I mean, you got to look at camera gear as a tool, just like any tool you have in your van to work on an air conditioning. Not every tool is going to be the best tool for every job, right? So everything has its weaknesses, everything has their limitations, and you just have to know how to work around them. Even a big old crazy expensive like cinema camera, right? I mean, it still has its limitations. So I think with what we do, as long as you have something that's got good stabilization, which all the new phones do, everything shoots in 4K, so definitely shooting that. But lighting has a lot to do with it. So if you're in a dark attic or crawl space, have some lighting with you somehow, even if it's something small. Just use something, your headlamp, because that makes a world of a difference. Is
Oh yeah, you can get
having
creative.
enough light.
You can
Yeah.
get creative. We have work lights, all over the van. Just use a work light or something. I also want to thank DiversiTech. They simplify your work. They have everything a contractor needs to complete a job. That goes from equipment mounting, condensate, management, tools, maintenance chemicals, electrical components, indoor air quality, and much more. They have different branches under the same umbrella. More than likely, you're already using some of their products or tools. So go check out DiversiTech.com, and it's your one-stop shop for everything HVAC. Somebody had asked me about, or like they had a question for anybody that comes on here and does content. Do you doing residential? Do you discuss anything with the customer that you're recording? Do you give them a heads up or anything like that?
No, I don't. I mean,
You've never had
I
an
don't know if I
issue with
should.
that?
Nope. I take that back. I posted a video, and this was for an existing customer that I had for probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 years. But it was my fault. It was a commercial application, and I gave away just too much information of like where I was, like how to get on the roof, things like that, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
he was like, yeah, and it was for an area where it was like childcare.
Gotcha.
And so I didn't even think about that whatsoever. But so yeah, he was cool about it. He just said, if you can take it down, that'd be great. So, but other than that, no. Um, Everyone has phones now. It's like it's not that big of a deal. I don't walk through their yard, doing
Yeah.
this or anything, but especially using a phone. If I had my big old camera out there, then they would be probably asking questions. So, but I will say though, a lot, if not all my customers, they know this is what I do, right? I
Okay.
mean, I get tons of customers because of this, right?
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I mean, they'll even though I don't promote my business, they do their research and they find me. That's pretty crazy.
Quick
And
Google search. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, before I'm talking about before I wasn't even wearing anything that was labeled my company name at all
Mm.
at the very beginning. So they really had to do their homework to figure out who I was. I just never showed like license plates, mailbox numbers, personal like photos, anything like that. Just kept
I,
it mainly about the equipment.
yeah, I would assume like you're in their house, try not to show too much of their house or themselves, anything like that. Because a lot of times, if you're doing residential, you're at the condenser or in an attic anyway. So I don't know. I just had that question, and it's usually guys that are starting out and they want to like film everything, and most of them are going for like the GoPro. Now I don't know if have you ever tried the GoPro, like strapping it to something
I've never been a fan of action cameras for your main camera, just because
like
it
the
has
look?
that GoPro look. But I've used them just to be creative and stick it in a tight area just to get a random shot. That's fine. But
Yeah, it's funny because
but they've
people,
come a long way though. They have come a
yeah,
long
they
way.
look I think the ones from this year honestly look way better than previous ones. I've been into it as a hobby. My brother is, or I don't know if he's getting back into it. He was a photographer. He did a little bit of schooling for it, and if I ever have a question on Photoshop or anything like that, I'll ask him, and he knows how to work a camera. I still don't know how to work an actual camera, but I'll ask him about it. And he got into videography and doing the whole. I guess in college, you do your video projects and stuff like that. I remember him doing that at my mom's house, and my mom let him use like whatever room they needed to do their little skit or whatever it was. So I've been around it, and I've always been interested in it. And my whole thing was like, I'm a big movie person. I don't know if you are too. Are you like into cinematography and things like that?
Yeah, which makes it difficult for me to watch anything and actually
Oh
like
yeah.
watch or follow the story because I'm watching camera angles and how they got this shot. That's the kind of stuff I like more than anything. It's
I, I'm
hilarious.
I'm the same way because if I watch something, I'm always looking at little things, little details, or why did they do it this way, or why did they do it that way? And I guess that translates into what I do now, as far as like, doing the YouTube channel and stuff like that. And the only thing I've had difficulty with, which I think I'm finally figuring out, is like the whole short form content, because that is completely different from anything you do on YouTube. Like I've had to kind of change the way I think about that.
Yeah, I personally haven't really tapped into that world. I always use Instagram as a means to direct traffic to the YouTube channel. That was always kind of my intention at the beginning. Again, before knowing that there was a massive community just on Instagram. So I've always wanted to do more, but that's just how it is, right? You always want to do more, but you just don't have time for it. But yeah, the short form stuff, it's a little tough for me, if I'm being honest, because I'm I'm not the type of guy that wants to promote that that scrolling effect
Yeah.
and super fast catching your attention type of concept. So that's why I struggle with trying to create that type of content because I'm not really, that's not my vibe. I don't really care for that kind of stuff. I actually just recently got a new client for my the media side where I'm filming and editing and creating the videos and photos for a local garage door company. So I'm going to help them kind of beef up their social media. And so I had to completely look at this from a different lens, right? Because we're not doing
Yeah.
long form, we're doing this short form stuff. And I'm starting out with this video and it's like 2 minutes long. And I'm like, something's telling me this is way too long, right?
Oh
And the
yeah.
more I think about it, I'm like, man, this thing needs to be like 30 seconds or less. It needs to be capturing their attention and then leaving them wanting more, right?
It's hard.
So anyway, it's cool to learn the new stuff though because it's a different game for sure.
I don't know if you have like a favorite movie, but what's your favorite kind of cinemas?
That's a tough question for me because I don't really watch a lot.
Not even
I
like
feel like
from
I don't.
back in the day or anything?
Back in the day, maybe okay. So before being like this crazy busy father
Before
slash
being an adult,
entre-
yeah.
yeah. Um, I don't know, man. I think I've always gravitated towards movies or shows. It doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
but it has to do with like outdoors, like nature,
Mm.
adventure type stuff. Like, and that's still how I am now. Like if I do want to sit down and watch something, I want to pull up like a documentary on some guy climbing a mountain or just doing something crazy. Like that's the type of stuff that I can get into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the tech side, the technology side, so I've always been into sci-fi films, you know, that kind of stuff. That's always what I used to watch. But again, like you said, being an adult now, you got kids, you got a business, you got all this other stuff that we got to do, and I really don't watch TV. If anything, I watch more YouTube than anything else, and it's usually because I'm watching one of my buddies that does, HVAC or, podcasting, or I'm like looking up how to do something.
I mean, I get caught up in some of these guys where, off grid type living where they're, building a cabin, things like that. I do enjoy that type of,
Oh
feature.
yeah, I've always been into like how stuff is made. So like there used to be a show, I don't know what it was called, maybe it was called How It's Made, I don't know. But on
Yeah,
TV,
there was one. Yeah.
yeah, on TV they would take you through like the manufacturing process of all these different things. Like it could be candy, it could be, little tools or whatever it was, and that's what I found fascinating. Not a TV show or anything like that. That's what I was watching. And today's episode is also brought to you by GREE Comfort. I have heard nothing but high regards for GREE themselves. GREE offers not only just ductless mini splits that you might know them for, whether it's single zone or multi-zone, GREE has the GREE Flex and the Multi Pro for whole home and building cooling, so you guys can actually get systems, for your house and stuff like that. They always have updated system documentation and live video trainings for contractors. They help you with your installations and make it as seamless as possible. You can follow them on Instagram and YouTube at GREE Comfort, and you'll get access to all their educational video content. I'll leave that linked below. I think YouTube is better than cable at this point, to me.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh yeah.
And you are into all that outdoor stuff, right? Because you have a Jeep that you take out. I saw that you went out with your son, and you kind of recorded some of that. And do you guys go
Yep.
camping and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So camping is and trail riding, anything like that is like what I'm all about. I would spend every day if I possibly could. So I have a Jeep that's set up for more of like remote trail riding, camping, things like that. It's got like a rooftop tent on it, and it's got like a little kitchen in the back that I've kind of, created to be able to cook when you're out there on the trail. And then we also have like a normal camper that we pull with my truck that we take the whole family with. So we've got multiple ways to be able to get out in nature, but that like being in nature is absolutely mandatory for me to like survive, because like that's how I reset myself is by getting out in nature. But yeah, man, we this fall, man, my family and I, this is the first time we've ever done this. We did a 3-week trip out west to the Midwest with a camper, and we went through Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and then through Colorado, and then back to Tennessee. So we had a huge, massive trip. It was amazing. Um, and then I think just a couple of weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago, I just got back from Utah. So I did a Jeep trip with a buddy of mine. We drove out there in our Jeeps, and we did more of like backcountry style, where we're doing like overlanding, like a lot of miles out in the middle of nowhere, and camping and all that stuff. So yeah, we love it, man. We got dirt bikes, kayaks, bikes. I mean, we're all about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember the dirt bikes. So you're outdoor, all that stuff that you do is how you also decompress and kind of get away from the business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or
I mean, I've even found local places where, man, if the day is getting pretty heavy mentally, I'll I'll go out to the lake and I'll sit out, and I'll do some, I guess you could call it meditation, but I'm basically just sitting there and I'm just being calm and I'm just letting things pass. And
yeah.
then I'll get back in the truck and I'll go back to work, and like I'll do that sometimes. It's because it's necessary, man. This is a stressful job, or it can be, right? Especially when you're doing it alone. But yeah, nature, that's my jam, dude. That's
That's awesome because Every and when I ask people their hobbies, I mean, I should probably go, I should do a different way of asking that. Like, a hobby can be like anything you do to get your mind off of work, right? So like everybody's hobby is always like, or when I ask that question, it's always about family. And I understand that. But like, what do you do with your family, right? So like you're an outdoor person, you might get away during work. That's another way to do it. But you and your family did that whole trip, which is something that I'm interested. Well, my girlfriend wanted to get like a camper too and kind of do like a trip where we can go through states and stuff like that.
It's amazing. I mean, it's hard work, especially with kids.
Well, you got a full house
But
too.
it's definitely, yeah, and it's definitely worth it though. I mean, that was just a one cool experience, man. And we're gonna try to do something like that at least once a year. It's kind of our goal. The older that I get, I'm starting to realize how important it is to not make your work your main thing. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
necessary, but to going back to your question about asking people about their hobbies, like well, family stuff. Well, no, like if you're a father or you're a husband, like that's that. But what are you for you, right? Like what do you do for yourself? Um, and that's where the hobbies come in, right? If you sports or hiking, whatever. But it's definitely necessary because we can get lost and lose ourselves pretty quickly, um, because there's so many distractions in this life, right? Whether it's work, I look at work as a distraction, to be honest with you, because we
Yeah.
can overdo it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to live to work, man. Like I want to work because I do enjoy it. I do. I find value in helping people and then serving, and that's like where the trade grind thing is going. That's where we're going with that because that's what I want to look at, not necessarily filling my days and working 10 hours, 12 hours. You know, sometimes there's a season for that and you got to get through it. But man, I'm learning, I'm trying hard to make that turn and start making a difference to where I can be around my family more often. I can spend more time on the trail. Stuff like that, man, where we're just not working ourselves to death.
No, and that's like a little headbutt type of topic that I've had with people too, like where they're like, and it could be like an old school mentality. I don't know what it is, but they're like, no, you got to work so much and do this, and that's got to be your life. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I love my job. I love what I do. I mean, there's a lot of stress, like you said. Me and my dad run a business. You run your own thing. Like there's stress to it, right? And if you don't get away from it, it's just gonna eat you up. So my whole thing is at like, and same thing here. As I get older, it's something I think about more. Like I don't want to miss my kids' sporting events or like their school events or whatever it is. And I'm okay taking or rescheduling, shuffling things around to kind of accommodate for that. Now, in this, well, thankfully they don't go to school in the summer, but like in the summer, that's a little harder to do, right? Like that's when I'm working every day and working late sometimes. So, it's just what are your priorities? What is important to you? My whole thing is like we have a small business. My success is putting food on the table, being comfortable there, like money wise, and being home with the kids. Like, we started doing movie nights and like little things like where do you want to go like this weekend, right? Go to their favorite spot, pizza spot, whatever it is on the weekend, make a day of it. Uh, our daughter likes to have like a mom and daughter day every now and then, like, all these little things. And my son likes to do, his own thing and we go out. So like those are the things that I care about. And like you said, uh, so do you, and it should be important to so many people. But I've had that conversation with some that are like, no, it's all about work, it's all about money. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be, you know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's an ego thing when you take it that far. So, I mean, speaking, as a man, our job obviously is to provide for our family. That doesn't mean only monetarily, right? Not just
Yeah.
money. You need to physically be there. You need to be physically, either holding their hand, talking them through something if they, are having a hard time, whatever the situation is. But yeah, I mean, it's strange, right? Because we, money is the sexy thing, right? People think money is what's going to create extra happiness in our life, and that's just not true. Um, So we get lost in it. And that's, again, that's the distraction that I'm talking about. All these shiny objects that are all around us all the time, and everyone's wanting our money, right? So they're telling us that we need it and we need to have this. Our kids should have that. And it's just not true, man. And um, so anyway, I could go down a whole rabbit hole of this, but it's it's definitely something on my mind for sure. I'm trying to clean my family up, my way of living up as far as that goes, to where we have more time to just be with one another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what the kids are going to remember. That's what we are going to remember when we are, 80 years old or however old. We're going to remember all of those little moments. You know what I mean? We're not going to remember how much we made that, in 2024.
And I remember when I was a kid, how my dad was, and he was his whole thing was family as well. So like I'm thankful for that. So I always put myself like in my kid's shoes. I'm like, what was I doing at his age? And what do I remember? I remember my dad was always at my school. He loved watching our sporting events. Well, my brothers didn't get into sports, so I was the only one that got into basketball, and he was into it and he loved it. He was at every game, and it's funny because he volunteered at a lot of the school events. And here comes my dad. And that's another thing. He would take us to school in the service van. And I'm like, at the time,
That's
I get a
nice.
little embarrassed and I'm like, what are we doing here? But now I'm like, I'm thankful that he did it because he made the time before he went to work to, take us to school. And those are the things that I remember. Like you said, what are our kids going to remember? That's been that's a message that I've been trying to get to some guys when they ask me about like pay and money and stuff. I'm like, you're going to get it. I was like, I promise you're going to get it if you work hard. But think about if you have a family, think about that first. And yeah, man, my dad was there, taking us to school in the work van. He was always at the school things like chaperoning and stuff in his work uniform, which I remember seeing him like that, and then he was infamous for wearing his sunglasses, so very intimidating. And my dad was a big guy back in the day. He lifted a lot of weights and he had tattoos and everything, and all my friends were terrified of him, and they used to call him like the Terminator and all this other stuff. And then when they got to know him, because he would get to know my friends, like, oh, he's like, they're like, he's the nicest dude ever. But again, just getting back to it, like that's what I remember. He was at all my events. My parents were always at the games and stuff. I want that for my kids. That's my whole thing. Like I want to be there because then they'll remember that. And if you're not there, they're gonna remember that.
Absolutely. Yep. It's
Yeah.
important.
Sorry if I went on a tangent there.
No, you're good. It's funny you made that comment about your dad pulling up and dropping you off in the service van. Um, my wife, I took her out on our first date, and I picked her up in my service truck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean that's all I had at the time.
Did
When
she
I
even
first started
like
out,
bat an eye at it? Like, was she cool with it?
no, yeah, no issues. It didn't even stand out to her. Like she just like, oh yeah, he's a working man. If he
You got to
picks,
do what you got to do.
obviously, I mean, obviously, like I keep my stuff clean. It's not like a trash van or truck or anything. So it was clean. It was nice. But it's still funny that our first date was in a service truck.
And y'all went out to like a nice dinner, or how was that date?
We actually went and watched some live music. So
Okay.
that was the first couple things that we did when we first met, which was pretty cool. But yeah, not too long after that, I would say probably a few years, she ended up working with me. So we worked together for like 3 years. She was out in the field, or she rode with me in the truck, helping me do installs, service
Did
calls, all of it.
Okay, did she have any prior trades, blue collar type of
N-
jobs, or she just
not at all.
so
Not
she
at
really
all.
loved you?
Yeah, but honestly, it was more than that. It's just who she was. It was the number one thing we would get from our customers all the time. They would ask us, "How in the world do you guys work with each other all day and then go home with each other all day as well? Like you never have a break from one another." And we were like, we don't need it. I mean, we get along well. We're best friends. We have a good time. Obviously, we have our our struggles and whatnot, but we worked so well together. It was crazy, man. And for her not knowing anything and not having a ton of physical strength either, helping me put furnaces and air handlers in the attic and just it was cool, man. It was one of the best experiences for me because I got to hang out with my best friend all day and we got to work, which was pretty cool. And not only that, she's a serving type. So I'd be in the attic and she'd bring me up a cold towel and ice water and things
Yeah,
like that. And I was always,
stuff that we don't think about to get ourselves either. Because I'll work in a 100
yep,
degree weather and I'll never go get water. I'm really bad about it.
yep. And she knows that about me too. So, but yeah, on some level, she misses being out there in the field doing that kind of stuff. So we had a good
You said
time.
that was for like 3 years.
Yep, she was in the truck with me for about 3 years until we had our first child, and
Gotcha.
then, of course, I mean, I'm pretty sure I can dig up some pictures, but she was out in the field working with me with a full belly, like, up
Oh,
maybe a few weeks up until she had our first child, so, um, she's a hell of a worker, man, that's for sure.
yeah. That sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's different, but looking back, I mean, because I'm not an easy person to work with at all whatsoever. I'm pretty, I'm a hard ass, right? Like, I'm very strict on how I like things, and if I told you once how to do something, you should know how to do it the second time. I shouldn't have to tell you, right? So that's the kind of guy that I am when you work with me. So the worst person to work with. Um, but I have to give her credit because she was the type of person that she didn't take things personally. So if I got kind of snippy, like I would with any other person, and I didn't treat her any different. She just understood that we're at work and this is how he works. So she respected that, right? And we wouldn't argue because I was, being too mean or anything like that. So it was cool. It was a good experience.
Are you right now a one man show? Because I know you had an apprentice for a while, but are you back to solo?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been over a year. Um, Shoot, I think this spring it'll be 2 years
Oh,
since I've been back to solo. Yeah.
and is that something you
So
prefer or?
I do. I mean, dude, I've gone back and forth on this so many times. I know my wife's probably sick of me talking about it, but because I want to grow, I want to have employees, I want to do this, and then a week later, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stay where I'm at. This is great. I have more control over the quality of work. I don't have to deal with X, Y, and Z. So I end up just staying where I'm at, and I just pour in more effort into like the media side of things. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I
So, have you ever had problems with employees, or is it just like you prefer it that way?
I wouldn't say problems. No, not at all, really. It's just dealing with people and their problems, their emotions, and their struggles, right? Y- their girlfriends or their wives or whatever the situation is, and they bring that to
Oh,
work, and then
bringing it to work.
a lot of it was just the quality of work. Like I would rather slow down and take more time and do something to the best that I possibly can. And a lot of folks don't want to do that. They want to rush through it and they're more worried about getting home and drinking beer or partying with their friends or whatever the situation is. And
Yeah.
I just don't need that. I don't
Yeah,
need it,
well,
man.
we're like a team of 4 right now, and we've gone back and forth as well. So, when we started, we did hire more people, but we actually had issues with, the money and them taking things and side jobs, and a lot of things can come up. So we've had those issues, and we had to downsize. Of course, we lost money with more people, and right now with less people, we make way more. We've kind of tried to control it, but even still, right now, like one of our guys, he rushes a lot, and that's what gets me all the time. And I try not to get pissed off about it and stuff like that. But it gets to me because I'm like, dude, like you said, slow down. I don't want callbacks. I don't want this. But it's hard because when you have employees, you can't control everything that they do. You need them to go do their own calls. The guys that do have big companies, kudos to them. But quality control is a, so it's a real, issue.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just have to be bred for that type of business. Like you just have to really want that type of business model. And I just don't. Like I don't care. I make damn good money. I don't need to grow. What's the point in growing? Right? I mean, my
I
customers are getting taken care of. I don't have any
Yeah.
issues when it comes to that. Like so other than ego, what is the reason why I need to go and work more? One of the biggest reasons why I became self-employed to begin with was that I wanted flexibility.
Yeah,
I
that's
wanted
true.
to, if I want to be off to go hang out with my kids or go on a 3-week vacation, I can do that. And I not cultivated my clients and my customers to where they understand that and they'll wait for me. And if they can't, I'll give them. I'll have a buddy of mine who owns his own company. He'll go run the call for me, and I still won't lose that customer. And that's just and it's working. It's working well. So why change
It,
it?
it's 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 crazy because like I get it. I get the people that build up big businesses or they want to. Like I get it. And like you said, it might be an ego thing. You can say that you have such a big company and it makes so much, whatever. But like you're a one man show. I know Curtis, HVAC guy, doesn't want to grow either. He's a one man show himself, and he's keeping himself busy, every week. And me at 4 guys, I think we're pretty comfortable. And it's like you said, you make the money. So like for us, with the with less people, we make more money. So then I'm like, why would we go back to, more people and kind of gamble that? But everybody's different. So it's okay to be a one man show, a small company, and it's okay to be a big company. It's just like you said, what you want out of it. Because uh, so for yourself, I know you mentioned. I was going to ask about you growing your company, but I guess you have kind of converted back to staying just yourself for now.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't like said this out into the public yet, but yeah, I was in the process of acquiring another smaller company in my area, and we went through about a month probably of down that road, and then I realized that um, it's not what I want. I felt like it was being forced, not from anyone else. I was forcing myself, and so once I realized that, then I decided to back out of it and not go down that path. So um, yeah, and I just reverted back to where I was prior to that.
Yeah, I have a buddy, Jake Cooling with Kraus, had their company. They bought another company and kind of took on the clients and all that. And that's how they built theirs up. So I've seen it done that way. And like you said, I mean, if you don't want to if you don't want to deal with that headache, I mean, you don't have to. You can make and that's what I tell people. Like you can make as much as you want and either do a lot or do a little. You can be one man show. You can, like you said, get out early, whatever it is, and still make the money. I mean, it's there. It's possible in this trade.
Absolutely, anything is possible. I mean, you can keep it as simple as just having a few customers, right? Only
Yeah,
have maybe a couple like commercial customers, and they keep you somewhat busy, and you work 20 hours a week, and that's all you do. Like that, you could do that, um, or you could go crazy and go the complete opposite end.
and then for us, as long as you do good, honest work, because we've turned away work before, and our customers end up getting somebody else because of like time, right? We can't get out there. But we always get work. We always get those we keep those customers too because we do or we take pride in our work. So that's, just do good work, be honest, and be a good technician. You'll be good.
Oh yeah, dude, it's pretty actually pretty easy, because
That's
most people don't do any of what you just said.
I know I've had that conversation with a couple people recently. Like it's and they've admitted, it's a little sad, but I'm like, if you just put a little bit of effort into it, you can be a great technician. You can stand out from everybody else if you just put a little bit of effort.
And honestly, it's not that you need to know a lot or be super smart. It's just about applying the resources that you have, right? Because we all have tons of resources now. So just understanding where those are, but just care about the work that you do. That's really the number one thing. Even if you don't know how to fix the machine, but you know who to call that can help you. Like, as long as you don't just walk away from it and say you fixed it just to get out of there, right? I know a lot of people do things like that. Like, care about what you're doing, and that goes a long way.
See, like I didn't know if that was a common thing because I've told people like, be honest, if you don't know something, you can come back or you can call somebody or you can look up a YouTube video, whatever it is you need to do to figure it out. You have resources, like you said. Um, and I'm like, be honest though, because I've seen it too, where they're like, yeah, button it back up, it's all fixed, and then they get paid and they head out, and then the customer's like, okay, it's not working, it's still not working, but they told them it was working.
Oh yeah, I've had customers tell me that about other companies quite a few times, and then they get ghosted. They don't answer the phone or whatever the case is. I mean,
Yeah, like
I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, I've had customers and they're like, "Hey, I know you've worked on these units over here, but we have a chiller. Do you work on chillers, or have you worked on this unit before?" I'm like, "Nope, never seen it, but I'll go work on it."
yeah,
And I know people that that I can call that'll help me, but having the confidence that you can figure it out because you have the resources is probably bigger than being the super tech and knowing all the answers. Yeah, but I never really understood it, man, because I've been around a lot of people in the field and they're scared to work on anything that they haven't seen before. And I'm like, okay, if you haven't seen it before, like, this is an opportunity for you to learn something new. Like, why are you scared of it? And maybe because they're trying to act like they know so much and they don't want to get caught with their pants down. You know what I mean? And
yeah, they don't want to
so
look
I don't know.
dumb.
Yeah, and it's like, well, don't act like you know everything, and you won't look dumb. We're
Yeah,
all here learning, man. This freaking life is a practice, so just go after it.
that's how you should approach everything in life. The way the way you approach an HVAC system. Um, so like speaking of learning and not knowing or anything like that, did you go to school for HVAC or did you learn on the job?
Yeah, I learned on the job. So back when I was 18, fresh out of high school, landed a job with a general contractor. He was a custom home builder. He did a lot of the stuff on his houses, and one of the things was the HVAC. So I guess he had his license and all that, but he taught us how to do the duct work. So that's what I started doing. And then very quickly realized that I wanted to do that instead of doing everything he had us doing, which was like landscaping and all kind of stuff. So I ended up landing a job in Nashville for an actual AC company, and just green was a residential installer helper, and just went from there, man. I learned a lot about a lot of different aspects of the market. So I didn't stay in one area and learn and master that area. So it's more like a jack of all trades. I mean, I was in install residential, but then I quickly got into commercial, and then I quickly got out of install and got into residential service. Then I went into commercial service. Then I was in building automation. So I was like in my mind climbing that ladder of where I wanted to go. So I never really learned like a lot about those steps along the way, right? But I just feel like I've gotten so much experience just in all the different applications that I've done. Um, to that, yeah, 22 years now. So, but
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
good.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because there's a lot of folks out there that know way more than me in the residential realm of just knowing like parts and what this unit fails a lot at, things like that. I never really grasped those things 'cause I was always moving on to something else. So
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I'm similar. Like, I admire a lot of the guys that that we see online that are really good at something or really good at a lot of things or are real technical with what they're talking about. And I'm like, I like to get in front of a system and kind of figure it out. That's my thing. I have a hard time explaining it sometimes because even my dad will be like, "What did you do?" Or can you talk me through it? Because he doesn't do HVAC. And I was like it's kind of hard to explain. I just I fixed it, but I'm not really good at explaining or being technical about it. but I did go to school, so I have that in my. It's in my head. It's just I like to get in front of it and because that's why I'm really bad at like tech support. Like when people call me, I have a hard time explaining a lot of things because I'm like, oh, I just need to see it.
That's one thing I've found too, that there are people that are book smart, like you're talking about, that know all these details of things. And then there are people like maybe like yourself, definitely like me, but it's more of this what do you want to call it? I had the word and I just lost it. Common sense. Like you just have this sense when you get there, shit just starts like magically understanding when you see it. Like you don't understand why and how you saw it, but you did, right? And it's very strange. Like I've experienced that so many times where I'm like, how did I even catch that? I don't even know, but I
Okay, yeah,
did.
I know exactly what you're talking about because that does happen to me, and my dad even says because like he's kind of our dispatcher, and he's like, well, this one sounds difficult, can you go check it out? And he's like, and then I'll do my invoice, write up what I did, and he's like, how the hell? He's like, the other guy wouldn't have figured that out. I was like, I don't know, I was just there, and it's like that what is that, Rain Man type of deal? Like you just see it and you're like, okay, I got it, and then you don't know how you got there.
Yeah. It's like, what do they call it? HVAC 6 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, man. Like I've been with people and they're like, how did you? I was like, I don't know. It just
It's like
maybe that.
the sounds, the little visual cues that you might just all at once you see it and you're like, oh, it's this.
Yep. And maybe that's with experience, that the way my mind works and computes
Yeah.
things. I have no idea, but that's what works.
All right, really quick before we get out of here, favorite veto bag if you can pick one.
Oh my goodness.
I know you got a few.
Man, yeah, I definitely have a few, and normally I am the guy that can't stick with a bag longer than a few months. I get bored with it and I want to try something different. But the open style bag, I think it's like the OTC,
Oh, I've been
that
wanting
has
to
been
try that one.
that is my go-to still, and I don't plan on changing from it. It's perfect for me. It's not too big where it gets super heavy, where you overload it. And I just like the openness to it, where you can see everything. It's easy to get to. So yeah, and I have another bag that I'm using.
Yeah, because our guys at our job, the favorite right now is the SBLD. It's an open top one.
And is it the one that has a zipper on the backside?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the bag I was trying to remember the name of. Yeah, it's perfect for those more lighter jobs, and being able to put all your service probes and things like that. It's a good bag.
Yeah, I'm on rooftops all the time, so I gotta usually pick a bag that closes, just so I don't dump all my tools out going up the ladder.
Yeah, having the backpack straps too are obviously right would be
I've
helpful.
been, yeah, I've been leaning towards anything that's backpack. So I have like the MB3 Blackout, which is like technically a backpack if you have the attachment, and then I think I'm gonna try out the MB5B. That's the one that everybody loves. It's like the backpack everybody's been asking for, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you can't. It's all personal preference, obviously, but those bags. I mean, I still have my first bag that I got, and when I got it, it wasn't even brand new. I got it
Mm.
used from a coworker, and this was back when I worked at the company before I started my own company. So this was like back in 2010, I think. And dude, they just last forever.
I
You
was gonna
take care
say,
of them like anything else.
yeah, I was gonna say I was at the I wasn't working. I was shopping at our grocery store, and there was a guy working on like it was like a case cooler or freezer. I'm not sure. I think it's where they kept the cakes actually. And he was working on it. He had it open and everything. And then like towards the bottom, I spied really old, faded, but like he was still using it MB2, and I was like, yep, that those things can take a beating and they last forever. Like I still have some in my garage that are like from years ago. Well, we've been here over an hour. I don't want to keep you too long. I won't keep you away from your family and all that. I appreciate you for taking the time and sitting down, man, and a good conversation. I think we hit a lot of good points. And thanks again.
Yeah, of course, man. Appreciate you allowing me to be on the show.
Hey, man, I've been watching you since 2020, and a lot of cool videos, a lot of cool shots. Similar interest on the cinema, side of things, and it was really cool to talk to you. Anybody watching and listening, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.